viewers, a very good evening to all of you. Once again, we are here to discuss about the another topic related to plant kingdom. Today we are going to discuss the third part of course, the cryptograms, which is the seedless plants. We're going to discuss about the pteridophyte. Yes, the pteridophytes are the first land plants absolutely present on the land, have no connection with the water, just like the bryophytes we have discussed. So we are going to discuss about the characteristics of the pteridophytes, their particular classes and their particular whole kind of an economic importance in detail. Yes, so before we start, let me introduce you to myself. Once again, I am Anam Khan. I'll be your botany expert for the session 2023 and 2024. We're going to discuss all the amazing topics related to the botany and of course the plant. I know these particular topics are not easy to remember. These are particular topics which are not easy to exactly go in one round in your mind. What we're going to do, because that is why we are keeping one practice session and one theory session, so that you can basically revise everything in detail, and by attempting the question you get to know whether you have understood the concept or not. So today we're going to have this characteristics of the pteridophyte, discussing everything, every character related to the pteridophytes in detail. Yes, so let's start our today's session, but before that, children, I want you to join us on the Embibe app so that you can have this amazing experience of basically attempting the questions through the app. Like it's not possible on the YouTube, so you can basically join us on the Embibe app. All the particular sessions topic wise has been scheduled on the Embibe app. Okay, you can register for the classes. By the end of the session, I'll told you how to register for the classes, and you have this one-stop solution for everything. It is filled with so many practice questions, so many videos related to practice session. Yes, and you can create your own test also. You can attempt your test also, and you can always see your progress. Yes, it is like the one-stop solution for everything, the Embibe app. Okay, so children, talking about the pteridophytes, the characteristics of pteridophytes, today we have in our particular session, we're going to discuss about what is pteridophytes. Yes, in the previous sessions we have discussed about the kingdom algae. Yes, we have discussed about the bryophytes. We are moving towards the other topic, which is the pteridophytes, and after the pteridophytes are over, we're going to discuss about the gymnosperms and of course the angiosperms and the life cycle of these plants. Yes, and today in today's pteridophytes topic, we're going to discuss about the habitat of the pteridophytes, the morphology of the pteridophytes, the classification, the life cycle, the sporophytes, the gametophytes, the homosporous plants, heterosporous plants, and of course their seed habit. All the things in one particular session. We're going to discuss each and everything in detail. Yes, moving forward, talking about more of the pteridophytes, children. Before we start, I would like to tell you that the pteridophytes are the last member of the cryptograms. And what are cryptograms? You know, the seedless plants. The plants which do not have seeds are called cryptograms, and this is the third member of the cryptogram family. Algae, bryophytes were the another part of the cryptogram family. Pteridophytes is the third member of the cryptogram family. After this, cryptogramous plants will end, and we'll start with the phanerograms. And phanerograms, you know, the plants which are absolutely seeded, which are the gymnosperms and the angiosperms. Yes, so moving forward, talking about today's session, talking about the whole pteridophytes, let's have a quick recap what we have studied about the bryophytes. You know, bryophytes are the plant amphibians. Yes, they live on the land and they use water for the fertilization. Yes, that is why they are known as the amphibians of the plant kingdom. There are three classes of the bryophytes. One is the Hepaticopsida, Anthracosopsida and the Bryopsida. Yes, the main plant body of the bryophytes is always the gametophytic, and the dominant phase of the plant which is always have to be haploid. Yes, sporophyte is divided into foot, seta, capsule, which is root leaf like structure, which is just like structure, but it completely lacks the root, stem and leaves. These are not typically divided and have this particular features of a plant. Root, stem and leaves are not present. Root, stem, leaf like structures are present. Yes, so children, both pteridophytes and semitophytes, both sporophytes and gametophytes have helping each other to complete the life cycle of the bryophytes. Both the gametophyte and sporophyte are important to complete the life cycle of the bryophytes. Discussing about the pteridophytes. So children, ferns are usually appealing addition to any bouquet. If you have been to a market and bought a flower bouquet, you know those extra ferns, they have been always a part of the plant bouquet. Yes, I know everyone have been a flower shop, bought a bouquet, and apart from your flowers, there's some always a necessary part which is being adjacent to your bouquet, which is basically being decoration part of a bouquet, which is being used. So children, those particular ferns which are being used in the bouquet for the decoration, that is known as the pteridophyte. They belong to the division Pteridophytes. Yes, talking about the pteridophyte, that was just an introduction. You know everybody has bought a bouquet. So basically, they are basically addition to your bouquet and they belong to the division Pteridophytes. But children, what are pteridophytes? What is the basic introduction of the pteridophytes? Talking about the pteridophytes, they are the first land vascular plants, means they are completely present on the land. They do not require water for the fertilization or any other event. They are completely surviving on the land. So that is why they are known as first land vascular plants. Children, when the term vascular comes, I know you assume the xylem and phloem, but in this particular plants, in this particular division of the plants, the vascular system is absolutely primitive. Primitive means not that well developed that you can call it as a typical xylem and phloem. Yes, they are in a primitive stage because these are the first vascular plants. So you assume that the very first plants which have shown the proper presence of xylem and phloem is not, they have just have a primitive structure of xylem and phloem. Again, these are the seedless plants and vascular cryptogams. That is what I say, these are the last member of the cryptogamous family, which are of course the seedless plants, but they are vascular. And they include what? They include plants like horsetails and of course the ferns. You know, this is very common that the ferns and the horsetail are the two particular member of this particular family, and is also very common. You can also see that in the environment whenever you go out in the nature, it's very much visible also. Talking more about the pteridophytes, the habitat. Let's discuss about the habitat of the pteridophytes. Talking about in detail discussion about the habitat. Habitat, you know what is habitat? Is they where their present major quantity is of the pteridophytes are present in. There could be xerophytic, they could be aquatic, and they could be epiphytic. Yes, yes, of course, I am saying that the first land plants, but some of them are still present in the water. Yes, they like to grow in water, but majority of them are in the land only. Yes, they are present on the land only. The very first is the xerophytic. You know what are the xerophytic conditions? The condition are extremely dry. Yes, desert like condition, they are known as xerophytic condition, and in this such condition, the plants which are basically found in the xerophytic condition, which have a habitat of a xerophytic, which is known as Pelalia. Yes, these are the plants, these are the pteridophytes found in the xerophytic condition. The other habitat for the pteridophyte is the aquatic. What is aquatic? You know, aquatic plants grow in the plants like ponds and the rivers. Majorly you can call it fresh water. They are present in the fresh water. An example of such pteridophytes which grow in the aquatic habitat is the azolla. Yes, the other are very special, which is called epiphytic. What are epiphytic, children? Which grow on the plants. Yes, some pteridophytes, they start growing on the other plant's body. Yes, those are called epiphytes. So epiphytes, some pteridophytes grow on the other plant for support in their habitat, and these plants wanted to get the moisture from the other plant body. Yes, they get moisture and nutrients. They typically act as a parasite. They basically act as a parasite on the other plant, obtaining the nutrients and the moisture from the other plants, and that is why their habitat is typically epiphytic. What is epiphytic? Epiphytic is a habitat in which the particular plant lives on the another plant. An example of the epiphytic habitat is the Polypodium aureum, which is another pteridophyte which live in this such condition. So yes, this is all about the habitats of pteridophyte. It could be xerophytic, aquatic, and epiphytic. Clear? I really hope this is clear. Yes? So children, giving a brief introduction about the habitat of the pteridophytes. They are xerophytic, they could be aquatic, they could be epiphytic. Yes, xerophytic living in the dry conditions, aquatic living in the water, especially fresh water, not marine water, and the epiphytic living on the other plant body. Clear? So this is the habitat of pteridophytes. You can find them at such places and the examples have been already given. Moving forward, discussing more about the pteridophytes, next we have the morphology. What kind of a morphology do they have? Yes, absolutely important. What kind of a morphology? What is morphology, children? Morphology is the external body conditions. What are the morphology? The plant body of the pteridophytes is divided. It's divided into root, stem, leaf like structure. Yes, they do have root, stem and leaf in their structure, and the sporophyte is the main plant body. What is a sporophyte? You know children, what is a sporophyte? Sporophyte is a plant body which is divided into root, stem and leaves. What kind of a stem do they have? They have a stem which is branched with this herbaceous and also woody. Yes, the kind of a stem which is present in the pteridophyte is woody, it herbaceous and it is also branched. The stem is branched, woody and herbaceous. These are the kind of a stem found in the morphology of the pteridophytes. The roots are absolutely simple and adventitious. Yes, these are adventitious roots are also found in the pteridophytes. They are absolutely simple and adventitious roots. Next, the kind of a leaves which are unique in the particular pteridophytes, that is why they are known as microphylls and macrophylls. Yes, the two types of leaves present in the pteridophytes. One is the macrophylls, the other is the microphylls. What is the difference between microphylls and the macrophylls? You know the name is also very clear, microphyllae. What is microphyllus? Microphyllus is a kind of a leaf which is small in size and have a very simple venation. Children, I know what is venation. Venation is the arrangement of veinlets. If this is your leaf, this is going to be your midrib and these are veins which is joining your midrib to the margin of the leaves. So the arrangement of these are veins. These are veins. This is your midrib. This is your midrib and this is your margin of the leaves, and the leaves which have this whole network, the network of the leaves are present on the lamina. That is called the lamina. So the microphyllus, the microphyllae is the leaves of a small size within simple venation. While on the other hand, macrophylous leaves or the macrophyllae is the leaves which are generally larger in size with a complex venation. Yes, the arrangement of the veins, the arrangement of the veins on the lamina of the leaves or the veinlets is called macrophyllae. Yes, the vascular tissue is present. Yes, the vascular tissue which is known as xylem and phloem. Yes children, this is the very first land plants to show the vascular tissue system. It may be primitive, but these are the first plants showing the xylem and phloem. Xylem is composed of tracheids, xylem and xylem parenchyma. Xylem vessels are absent. Yes, since xylem vessels are completely absent, it has only tracheids and xylem parenchyma. Xylem parenchyma is used to store food, while the tracheids are known as for conduction of water and minerals. Yes, it also have phloem, which you know is majorly known for the transport of the food material. Talking about the phloem, it has sieve cells present inside that sieve tubes. You know what are sieve cells and you know what are sieve tubes. Yes, the sieve tubes are present which are known for the conduction of the, because they have perforations in it. Yes, they are basically known for conducting the food. Yes, the food minerals inside the whole plant body, since xylem is absolutely unidirectional while the phloem is always the multi-directional in. So this is about the morphology of the pteridophytes. Very simple morphology. The body is divided into root, stem and leaves. The stem is branched, herbaceous and woody, while the roots are very simple and adventitious. Talking about the leaves, it could show the microphyllous like structure, or they can show macrophyly. Macrophyly is simply having simple venation, simple network of veins, simple leaves, while the macrophyly is having the more complex vein formation or the veins network. Next, there is a vascular system present, there is a xylem and there is a phloem also. The xylem do not have vessels, while the phloem have sieve cells and sieve tubes. Xylem have trachees and xylem parenchyma. You know children, they are the 4 components of xylem and 4 components of phloem. You must have studied in a very small class. Yes, xylem is having xylem vessels, xylem having trachees, having xylem parenchyma, xylem parenchyma. On the other hand, the phloem has phloem companion cells, sieve tubes and phloem parenchyma and sclerenchyma. Yes, but only these kind of vascular tissues are present inside the pteridophytes. So this is about the whole morphology of the pteridophyte, which is very simple and which is extremely according to the kind of a land plants would be. Yes, moving forward children, next we have the classification. So talking about the classification of the pteridophytes, we have 4 classes of pteridophytes. The first is the Coelopsida, the other is the Lycopsida, the other is the Sinosopsida and the last is the Pteropsida. So these are the 4 classes of pteridophyte existing, and the examples of each and every one is this. The class of the Coelopsida belong to the example of Coelotum. The Coelotum is basically, as this is exactly look like this, as you can see, this is more of a herbaceous kind of a plant. Next we have Lycopsida, and a very famous example of the Lycopsida family, or the, of course not family, class is the Selaginella and Lycopodium. This is very important members of the class Lycopsida. There are other class which is called Synopsida, and the very famous of it is known as Acustem. Yes, the Acustem, and we have the Pteropsida and the Dryopteris, Pteris and Ideatum are the examples of Pteropsida. You need to remember their examples, they are absolutely important. The classification of the pteridophyte is only restricted to this. Yes, since it is in NCERT, it's been very limited with the discussion, so we are not elaborating according to your NEET examination, but in your NCERT is totally restricted. We are going to discuss about that only. The class Coelopsida have the members like Coelotum. The class Lycopsida have a members like Selaginella and the Lycopodium, Synopsida, Acustem, Pteropsida, Ideatum, Diopteris and Pteris. Yes, this is how they basically look like. So these are the classification of the pteridophytes. Next children, we have the life cycle. Yes, what is the life cycle? How do these plants survive? What is the pattern of their cycle? So children, talking about the life cycle of the pteridophytes in detail, they show alternation of generation. What is alternation of generation? It means they will have a dominant phase, they will also have a haploid phase, they will also have a diploid phase of life cycle. They have this alternation of generation. Talking about the sporophyte, of the pteridophytes, the sporophytic generation is the dominant phase. You know what is sporophytic generation? It is divided into root, stem and leaves. Yes, this is the dominant phase of the pteridophytes family. The sporophyte as a plant body divided into root, stem, leaf is dominant phase of the pteridophytes. Next, the sporophyte has sporophylls which produce sporangia. Yes, the spores are being produced by these sporophylls, and these sporophylls have sporangia. The spores are formed inside in the sporangia after the meiosis. You know children, these spores will undergo the sporogenesis will take place through the process of meiosis, and the spores will be formed after the meiosis. Yes. The spores are being formed inside the sporangia by the division called meiosis. Yes, the spores are formed by the division of meiosis, you know, which is a reductional division, will be producing these spores. The spores germinate to give rise to prothallus. What is a prothallus, children? A prothallus is a gametophyte phase in the life cycle of the pteridophytes. So, once the spores are being produced by the sporangia by the process of meiosis, after that there would be a condition called prothallus condition. Those spore will develop into a prothalli. What is prothalli? Prothalli is the gametophytic phase of the life cycle of the pteridophytes. Yes, the prothallus could be of two types. It could be monoecious, it could be dioecious. Yes, it could be monoecious and it could be dioecious. The gametophyte becomes antheridia and archegonia, male and the female gametophytes. Yes, these prothallus will eventually develop into antheridia and archegonia, the male gametophyte and the female gametophyte. So, talking about the life cycle of pteridophytes, they show alternation of generation. Yes, but the sporophytic phase where the body is divided into root, stem and leaves is dominant. Yes, these sporophytes only have sporophylls on their body which contains sporangia. The sporangia will undergo the process of meiosis and will create a spore. This spore develop into form of a prothallus. What is a prothallus? A prothallus is a gametophyte, and after the prothallus could be monoecious, a prothallus could be dioecious, and it could be both antheridia and archegonium, and it could be having only archegonium or only antheridia. Yes, antheridia is the male while archegonium is the female gametophyte. Clear? So, this is about the life cycle of the pteridophytes. Moving forward, discussing more about the pteridophytes, next we have the water. Yes, the water is essential here. Again, once again the water is coming into the limelight. Once again, water is required for the fertilization and leads to the zygote formation. The zygote give rise to sporophyte, and pteridophytes show diplohaplontic life cycle. Once again, as you can see, children, the life cycle of the pteridophytes, they require water for the fertilization when in the sexual reproduction. After the fertilization, the zygote formation will take place, and this zygote will clearly develop into a sporophyte. A sporophyte will have root, stem and leaves. As you can see, children, this zygote is developing into a young sporophyte on gametophyte, developing into a mature sporophyte which is having root, stem, leaves. This is the root, which have a sorus which will produce what? These sorus will produce what? These sorus will produce the spores. After the meiosis, spores will develop into a germinating spore, will develop into a gametophyte. A gametophyte will have antheridium and archegonium. After the fertilization, which will take place in the water, a zygote will form. Again, the zygote will create a sporophyte. Again, there will be spores. There will be sporogenesis will take place. The spore formation will take place, and these spores will again go and basically form a prothallus. A prothallus will again create a male or the female gametophyte. Again, this is whole the life cycle. So, that is why if you see, this is the diploid phase, this is the diploid phase, and this is the haploid phase of the pteridophytes, and that is why it has been said that pteridophytes show haplodiplontic life cycle. The pteridophyte shows the haplodiplontic life cycle. Yes, so this is the life cycle of the pteridophytes. Next, sporophyte of a pteridophyte. Children, what is a sporophyte? This is what I have been talking about lately, that what is a sporophyte of a pteridophyte. Talking about the sporophyte, children, the sporophyte is a plant body for pteridophytes. It is a sporophyte, produces spores and can be homosporous, it can be heterospores. Yes, the spores produces on the plant or the sporophyte of a pteridophyte could produce a certain kind of a spores which could be homosporous or which could be heterosporous, which could produce same kind of a spores which will eventually develop into a prothalli having both antheridia and archegonium, or maybe they can develop into a heterosporous which will have not individual archegonium or the antheridium. So, sporophyte will give rise to a homospory or the heterospory in the pteridophytes. Clear? Next children, talking about the homosporous condition. What is a homosporous condition? Children, homospory, just now I have told you, the sporophyte could be of one type of spore. This is what I told you right now. What is homospory? One type of spore is present. Yes, and these are equal in shape and size. Only one type of sporangia will be produced. Yes, and it will be a bisexual gametophyte. Yes, the male and the female will be on the same. It would be a bisexual gametophyte developing from the homospory. Same kind of a spore developing into a homospory or I would say the bisexual gametophyte. The examples of the plants which will show the homosporous condition is the club moss and the horsetail. Yes, the lycopodium and the acustem will show homospory in which the same kind of a spores will be present. It will create a bisexual gametophyte and only one kind of a sporangia will produce, and production of these spores will be having the same size and the same shape. This is what you call homospory. The name itself is also converted with this. Homo means same, spory means same kind of a spores. Yes, that is why they are called bisexual gametophyte. And the example of this homospory is being shown by the lycopodium and the acustem. Next is the heterospory. Talking about the heterosporous, very simple, producing two types of spores, could be megaspore, microspore, antheridium, archegonium. Yes, the sporophyte will show two types of spore. This is called as heterospory. They will have megaspore or the microspore. The sporophyte will bear two type of sporangia, microsporangia, megasporangia. Yes, micro for the male, mega for the female. So, microsporangia will produce microspore. The megasporangia will produce megaspore. These spores will be haploid, and the examples of such kind of a heterospory shown by the pteridophyte plants is the Slegionella, which is also known as spike moss, and this is the Salvinia, which is known as water moss. So, what is the major difference between the homospory and the heterospory? When we talk about the homosporous, it means they will have bisexual plants. Yes, the bisexual kind of condition would be there. While we talk about the heterospore, they will basically have both the either the heterospory or the either the microspore or the megaspore, and the spores produced due to the sporomicrosporogenesis or the megasporogenesis are the haploid spores through the meiosis, and the plants will be showing such kind of a homospory and heterospory is the Slegionella and the Salvinia. Very simple. Please remember, these are the most important features of the pteridophytes, that they show homospory and the heterospory. Which plants show the heterospory and the homospory are basically a very important thing to remember. Yes, the homospory is shown by the horsetail, yes, but here the Slegionella and the Salvinia will show the heterospory. Next children, what is the seed habit? What is the seed habit? Since these are the cryptograms, the heterospory is considered to be the precursor of seed habit. After the what? Pteridophyte, it comes the gymnosperms, which show clearly seed, but some features of the seed, some kind of an indication that seed could be present in when the evolution would be there, is being basically shown by the some plants of the pteridophytes. The heterospory is considered to be the precursor. You know what is a precursor? Before coming of something, there has always been a precursor. The pre-made things. Yes, the seed habit, the retention of the female gametophyte on the parent gametophyte. The female gametophyte contains the zygote which develops into a newborn embryo. The occurrence of prelude to seed habit, which seen as the crucial evolutionary step. Yes. This is what I told you. When there is an embryo formation, when there is a zygote formation, the newborn embryo is present on the seed of the pteridophytes, and the presence of this particular prelude to seed habit is an important kind of an evidence for the evolutionary step. Yes, the presence, you know, the ovules convert into seeds. This has always been like that. Yes, the ovary converts into a fruit, the ovules convert into a seed. And what are ovules? Ovules are what? These are small ovules which are being not fertilized present inside the ovary, which eventually convert into a seed. Yes, so children, the formation, the presence of the prelude, this is what basically gives an idea that in the future evolutionary process, the children, the plants might have the seed formation. Yes, that is why the gymnosperm have a seed habit. Yes, they have macrosporophyll, which we will discuss in the gymnosperm, but before that this seed habit was absolutely seen in the pteridophyte, but it was not that evident. That is why the pteridophyte are still kept in the cryptograms or are called seedless plants, but they also show the precursor of the seed formation. Yes, next we have a question for you, very simple. Next we have a question for you quickly. Is any part which is not clear? Anything you wanted me to ask, you can ask. Yes? Question quickly. What could be the correct answer? Very simple, children. The class Synopsida is basically belong to this particular horsetail, which belong to the class Synopsida. Very simple. Next question. Choose the false statement about the pteridophytes. Come on, quickly choose the false statements related to the pteridophytes. Yes. What is a false statement in the pteridophytes? What is the false statement in the pteridophyte? Yes. Absolutely very simple. What's the false statement of the pteridophyte? Just now we have discussed about the particular what? The correct answer is that xylem vessels are present. This is of course not true. You know that the xylem vessels are completely absent in the pteridophytes. Next, children, we come to an end of this particular chapter. We have discussed about the pteridophyte, which is the first vascular plants showing the root, stem and leaves formation, and we have these also have a vascular which has xylem and phloem also. They have a habitat of a xerophytic, aquatic, and of course they are found in the epiphytic condition. The classes which the particular pteridophytes are being formed is called Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Synopsida and Pteropsida. Yes, the life cycle of pteridophyte is completely haplodiplontic. They show alternation in generation. They have a haploid phase, or this is called gametophytic phase. They have a diploid phase which is called sporophytic phase. The dominant phase of the pteridophyte is of course the sporophyte. The zygote will give rise to a sporophyte. The sporophyte is what? A root, stem, leaf like structure. So, we have this detailed discussion about the pteridophytes. Tomorrow we are going to have the practice session related to the pteridophytes. What are you have discussed? So, children, the next chapter, the next topic would be related to this. Did you see a seed habit of pteridophyte give rise to a seeded plant? Yes, eventually we will discuss about the next session will be about the practice session of the pteridophytes, and in the next lecture we will discuss about the gymnosperms. Yes, this is a question for you once again, that connect the habitat of pteridophytes to image of the bubble. What do you think this is the habitat? Habitat of the pteridophytes. Yes, what is the habitat of the pteridophytes? The correct answer would be the epiphytic, xerophytic and aquatic. Absolutely very simple. So, children, this is your Embibe app. This is what I was talking about. You can log in through your phone number and your email ID. You have to do just click on this page, go to the school examination, click on the CBSE, go to the 11th, and as you select the particular language, you land on this page and you click on the home page button. go to the Imbibe live classes. All the scheduled classes would be basically present over. You have to just register yourself for the class, and the example, the rest of the classes of the physics, chemistry, biology, all are being scheduled, children, so you can basically just attend them. And if you have missed any session, there's always a past Imbibe classes. You can learn, you can practice questions, you can test, and you can see whatever you have achieved in this lab application. And next, this is Imbibe Lens app. What you have to do, scan the text and see everything in 3D. This is also an amazing app. I want you to try. We will meet again tomorrow at the same timing, solving various questions, practice questions related to pteridophytes. Please children, please register yourself for the class. Come on the Imbibe app. This is, at least try to go through the whole and basically have this amazing experience. We will meet again tomorrow. Until then, keep imbibing. Take care. Bye bye.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.